Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Debrief on ABC News Live. I'm Kimberly Brooks. Thanks so much for joining us. We continue to update you on the major humanitarian crisis at the southern border. Plus, major news in Washington. Special counsel Robert Mueller is testifying before Congress in July. And we're talking about the big night for Democratic presidential candidates, debate number 1 in Miami. But first, here are your headlines.
2 U.S. service members killed in Afghanistan. The Taliban is claiming responsibility. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was just in Afghanistan Tuesday and sent his condolence to the service members' families and fellow soldiers, saying, quote, "This drives home the need for us to be successful with the mission there in Afghanistan."
Plans may be in the works for a third summit between President Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. South Korean officials say the U.S. and North Korea have been holding behind-the-scenes talks.
California Congressman Duncan Hunter facing new allegations of misusing campaign cash. Prosecutors claim the married lawmaker spent some of that money on affairs with 5 women. He and his wife are already charged with using $200,000 on trips and personal expenses. Hunter has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing.
Earlier this month, Hunter's wife pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy and agreed to work with prosecutors, potentially setting the stage for her to testify against her husband later this year.
This video of a dad taking flight to save his son. The toddler fell in a pool in Florida after walking through an open gate. Dad says it didn't even cross his mind to go through that same open gate you saw there. He jumped over that fence. Everyone is okay. A parent's love.
DJ LeMahieu of the New York Yankees hit a leadoff home run against the visiting Toronto Blue Jays. It was a 28th straight game in which the Yankees homered, a new Major League record.
We begin in Washington. He said he wasn't going to do it, but special counsel Robert Mueller will now testify next month. This after a subpoena from House Democrats for him to appear before Congress on national television. I want to bring in Terry Moran in our D.C. bureau. Terry, the Democrats got their wish. This is huge.
It is huge, Kimberly, for the Democrats for sure. This is something that they have wanted to do, which is dramatize this 2.5-year investigation into what happened in the 2016 election for the public and advance the Democrats' case that President Trump must be held accountable. There's a problem with that, though. The public has somewhat moved on from this, in part because the central issue that I think most Americans were interested in, the question that people wanted answered was, did Donald Trump betray the country by cooperating, coordinating, conspiring with the Kremlin to attack our democracy? That was really the big question, and that was a no from Robert Mueller. Despite 100 contacts between the Trump campaign and Russia, there was no evidence, he said, to bring any kind of conspiracy charge or even evidence of coordination between the Kremlin and the Trump campaign. So the Democrats have an uphill battle here in reigniting public interest and getting people to pay attention to the obstruction side. They believe the president obstructed justice.
Right. So as we both know and everyone knows, there was a lot of misinterpretation from this report. Do you think that his testimony will provide more clarity? No.
I think if there's one thing we have found out about Robert Mueller is he doesn't provide clarity. And he said in his one public appearance, he said, I'm not going to go beyond this report. I think we're going to get Robert Mueller saying 1,000 different ways the report speaks for itself. Now, they'll try and get out of him, well, would you have indicted the president for obstruction of justice if he weren't the president? And I just think he's not going to go beyond that. He's going to say in those very opaque terms, that's up to you guys. The report speaks for itself. But he may help, as I say, reignite interest, and that's something that the Democrats want, and reiterate the actual hard fact findings of his report, which, despite what the President of the United States claims, didn't find no obstruction, but found 11 instances of potential obstruction of justice, and he left it up to the Congress to decide what to do with those.
All right. Well, President Trump responded this morning, so let's take a listen.
It never ends. We had no obstruction. We had no collusion. We had a report that was, considering it 18 people that hated Donald Trump, and you had Mueller that obviously was not a Trump fan, not a Trump person. How these people were picked is, by itself incredible. And yet the no obstruction, which was ruled on by our great Attorney General, he's great. He's doing a fantastic job in many other ways, too. But he ruled on it, he read it, he saw it, and he ruled on the report. And based on the report, there was no obstruction whatsoever. And, of course, it's hard to have obstruction when you have no crime. We can also add that. He didn't rule on that basis. He just ruled on it that there was no obstruction.
And as we know, the report does not say there was no obstruction. Terry, it's just a lot of back and forth, yes?
It is, but you hear in that, Kimberly, President Trump's excellent political instincts. Where did he start out? It never ends. The country is fatigued with investigations of Trump, in part because a lot of people suspect, whatever they think of Trump, that the motivation is to reverse, to overthrow the 2016 election. I think most Americans would find that an illegitimate goal. And then the other thing you heard was that this is not a president who plays defense. He is going to counterattack. He's going to accuse, and you'll hear this when Mueller takes the stand in that hearing room. Republicans will grill him about who he appointed to investigate President Trump, what their political loyalties were, what the origins of this investigation were. And that is essentially the playbook for Donald Trump. So, yeah, he's going to repeat no obstruction, no collusion, as you point out. Neither one of those is true. Collusion's not a legal term. Robert Mueller found no conspiracy, but he found lots of contacts and willingness to cooperate on the part of the Trump campaign. And obstruction, he left that up to Congress. But President Trump and his allies in Congress are going to be formidable adversaries for the Democrats, who are trying to use this moment politically, and for Robert Mueller, who just kind of wants to stay out of the whole thing.
Well, everyone will be watching for sure when he testifies. All right, Terry Moran in our D.C. Bureau, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Yes. And guys, we move on to the migrant crisis at the border. The head of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection resigning amid reports over 300 children were being neglected in deplorable conditions, something one doctor compared to torture facilities. I talked to Matt Gutman in Clinton, Texas earlier, so take a look. Matt, good to see you. First, I want you to talk about the image that is scorched in everyone's mind of a family, a father and his daughter crossing the river.
A father and a daughter crossed the river and apparently drowned. Now, there is much more to this story, Kimberly, than you see in that one image, which is so devastating, right? The father and daughter washed up against the reeds. She's tucked inside his shirt because he didn't have a flotation device. There's that one arm of the toddler right across the man's neck. But the story is that apparently the father, the daughter, and the daughter's mother had been on the Mexican side of the border in Matamoros, trying to get into Brownsville, Texas, properly through a port of entry. Now, apparently they had been waiting there for weeks, maybe months. Father got fed up, decided they're going to try to swim across the Rio Grande. So apparently he took the daughter first, deposited her on the U.S. side of the riverbank, then came back for his girlfriend, his partner. And then he saw the daughter trying to swim towards him, so he jumped back into the water, tried to grab her, stuffed her into his shirt, but apparently the current swept them away and they both drowned, according to Mexican officials. So it's this heartbreaking image, but it's not that unique. Every year we hear that there are hundreds of migrants who die trying to cross into the United States, either in the Rio Grande or other rivers, or who perish in the desert trying to cross. But this happens to encapsulate so much of what is going on in the border and at the border right now, Kimberly.
Yeah, it definitely shows the difficult decisions and the danger that they're facing. I want to know what's going on at the facility where you are now.
All right, so we are at the Clint facility, and this is one of two facilities that doctors and lawyers who have gained access into these facilities as part of an agreement with the government to ensure that children are being treated properly have gone to. These are considered the worst of the worst. This is one of the two places that, as you mentioned, that one of these doctors likened to a torture facility. Now, I don't know if you can see through the fence right now, but it's pretty much a standard Border Patrol station. These were created about a decade ago in order to house single adult male migrants, not families, not children. Right now, we heard that 100 kids have been transferred back in, and you can see, maybe you can see through this fence. It's a little bright right now, but you can see those Border Patrol trucks. There are some portable toilets over there, and that's where these kids are being housed. And according to these doctors and lawyers with whom I've spoken, the conditions are beyond deplorable, right? You have kids in there who are as young as preemies. They're 5-month-old babies who are going hungry, who've not been given adequate food. I just want to give you a sense of what they're eating per day. This is what we are told. They get a packet of oatmeal for breakfast, then a cup of noodle soup, then a frozen bean burrito. They have a few snacks during the day, but that's pretty much it. That's the same meal for a 5-month-old and a 17-year-old child. They have been kept, some of them, in the filthy clothes that they came in on for weeks. They have not been allowed to bathe for days, weeks at a time. And apparently they're being denied basic hygienic products like toothbrushes, toothpaste, even soap, because apparently, according to them, Border Patrol says that these are not essential hygienic products, which is almost shocking. So as a result of the uproar that happened when these doctors and lawyers revealed what's going on in these facilities, Customs and Border Protection took 250 kids out of this facility. But we just learned this week that they brought another 100 kids back in. Hopefully, journalists and the press get access. We've never been allowed to film inside any of these facilities, and I've been to many of them along the border, but never allowed to film inside, which is something that we continue to ask Customs and Border Protection for access to do in order to show the world what is really going on inside there, Kimberly.
All right, so that was deeply disturbing to hear the details of, but I want to thank Matt for those updates. And guys, if you've been keeping up with the 2020 race, then you know tonight is night one of the first Democratic presidential debate. In the meantime, hours ahead of the debate, Senator Elizabeth Warren is saying she will visit a migrant detention facility in Florida. So Jeff Cook covers Elizabeth Warren's campaign and joins us in Miami. Jeff, what do we know about the facility she will visit, and if she will even get inside? Do we know if she will get in?
No, we're not expecting Senator Warren to get in today. We are just about an hour north of downtown Miami, where the debate will happen. Senator Warren just arrived. You can hear the chanting behind me. No, her campaign doesn't expect her to get in. This is really an opportunity to draw a lot of attention to what's going on here. What we know is that about 2,300 children migrants, most of whom were unaccompanied when they crossed, are being stationed here. It's an overflow facility. It was started under the Obama administration. It was shut down and relaunched in March 2018 when there was a surplus of migrants coming over the border, according to government officials.
And what are the people actually saying behind you? What are they chanting?
They're saying home instead. So we're in Homestead, Florida. Most of the signs behind me say free the children or home instead.
I got you.
Instead of the facility, of course.
I got you. So, yes, so we know that since she announced this, other candidates said they're going to visit. So like you said, Jeff, immigration and the migrant crisis will definitely be a topic tonight. So I want to move on to Lana Zach, who's actually in Miami as well and covering the presidential debate. Lana, I want to know what we can expect tonight.
Hey there, Kimberly. Well, definitely immigration, we expect, is going to be one of those big topics. Healthcare, climate, the economy. What's really interesting about this is how quickly they're going to be moving through these candidates. Each night's going to have 10 candidates on the stage. They're only going to get 60 seconds to respond to a question, 30 seconds for a rebuttal. It's been likened really to a kind of speed dating for politicians.
Yeah, and so the DNC, they're really trying to ensure that all of the candidates have a fair chance. Like there's no kids table this time, right?
Yeah, they said there's no kids table. That's when, in previous years, the folks who have been polling lower get relegated to a debate that less people watch. I wouldn't say that they're making sure that everybody has equal access, though. Let's be clear about things. There are still at least 5 people who have put their hat in the ring, announced their candidacy, that didn't make the cutoff to be included. But still, the majority of people on the stage over tonight and tomorrow are polling actually at just 1 or 2%. And the way that the DNC has structured it, the top poll leader is going to be in the center tonight. That's going to be Elizabeth Warren. She'll be flanked by Beto O'Rourke and Cory Booker on either side, and then the lesser-known candidates fan out along the sides there. Tomorrow is really going to be more of those bold-faced names that you would expect. Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, and they'll all be given the same amount of time. And so for those lesser-known candidates, we heard from Julian Castro, who will be speaking tonight, that this is his opportunity, he thinks, to get his name out there. And he thinks that as he performs well in the debate tonight, as he hopes, that his name recognition will go up, and so will his poll numbers, Kimberly.
And Lana, how much can we expect to hear the name President Trump tonight?
That's going to be the big question, because all of them are going to want to show that they are the best positioned person to go up against President Trump. But with such a limited time, it's kind of unlikely that they'll want to spend that, especially if they're the lesser known candidates, just talking about Trump, because everybody on the stage is going to be pretty well aligned about what they think of the sitting president, Kimberly.
All right, Lana Zak is right there in Miami. And guys, you can make sure you keep it right here on ABC News Live, because we're going to be showing you all of the debate coverage starting at 11 p.m. Eastern. All right, so we turn to some big news out of San Francisco. It's now the first major U.S. city to ban the sale of electronic cigarettes. So earlier, I talked with Lindsay Davis in Los Angeles about the move. So take a look.
So, Kimberly, I'm just going to throw out this one statistic to you from the FDA, which apparently from 2017 to 2018, they found that there was a 78% increase in vaping or e-cigarette use among high schoolers, 48% among middle schoolers. So the big concern here in San Francisco was that this is something that was really appealing to teenagers, and they felt that this was introducing a whole new generation to tobacco products. But this is a really significant move and a unanimous decision by San Francisco's Board of Supervisors to ban the sale of e-cigarettes across the board, regardless of age, and the mayor has already said that she'll sign it. But e-cigarette makers say that banning them means that adult smokers would no longer have access to a safer option than regular cigarettes. And this ban would not just prohibit the sale of e-cigarettes in stores, they also wouldn't be able to be purchased online and then shipped to a San Francisco address. Now, Juul, the industry leader, is actually based in San Francisco and released a statement saying in part that they support regulation and enforcement instead of prohibition, which they say will only drive former adult smokers who successfully switched to vapor products back to deadly cigarettes. Now, the sale of e-cigarettes when it comes to minors has already been banned in nearly every state, but several states now have bills underway that specifically target fruit and candy flavored tobacco, which they believe is especially appealing to teenagers.
Yeah, so it was really about the kids. I'm just curious, does this mean that if people already own the e-cigarettes that they can keep them?
Yes, you can. I mean, in a way, it's kind of grandfathered in. So if you already have it, then you have it. But this prohibits the sale. So in the future, you will not be able to buy the e-cigarettes in San Francisco. And again, the first major U.S. city to do so. So pretty significant.
Yes, very significant. I want to thank Lindsay for those updates. And I want to continue the conversation with Dr. Vanessa Cutler from our ABC medical unit. She mentioned the kids, and I know that you had said before that you're seeing a lot of kids come into these hospitals with vaping addictions. Mm-hmm. So tell me about that.
Sure, that's right, Kimberly. I mean, this has really turned into an epidemic. We know that last year we were seeing close to 4 million kids, middle schoolers and high schoolers, using e-cigarettes, and that was up from about 2 million just the year before. So this is a huge problem.
That's unbelievable. So I want you to tell us in detail what the effects of a child on their brain, like what's the effects of them using these products?
Sure. So, we know that nicotine has some harmful effects on the brain for learning, for attention span. We also know that it has harmful effects kind of on the heart and the blood vessels as well.
It's interesting, though, because it seems like the way that they market the products, it really attracts the kids.
Sure. So the flavors, they've got things like peanut butter cup, they've got fruity flavors, they've got vanilla, and then also, too, sometimes these products look like toys. They're very bright, so they can be attractive to kids.
Is it safer than cigarettes? Because I know from reading some things that you don't know all the chemicals that are actually in the e-cigarette.
Sure. So we have no long-term safety data on the use of e-cigarettes. So really, we don't have the data to say that they're safer. We know that there are carcinogens in the e-juice, which is kind of what they call the vapor packs, and we know that the nicotine exposure is pretty harmful.
One of the things that I found most terrifying when reading about juuling and e-cigarettes, there were some cases where there were actually like explosions in the face that killed some users and just severely burned others.
Right. So now we don't only have to worry about the effects on the lungs and the brain and the heart, but now also we have to worry about things like burns, explosions in the eyes as well.
And just before we go, I mean, what can parents do? Because this is, as you said, it's an epidemic.
Yes, so I think that the take-home message here really is prevention. And I think, the FDA says that no tobacco product, including e-cigarettes, is safe for kids or for teens. And I think that parents really need to start having very open conversations with their children about the use of e-cigarettes.
All right, Dr. Vanessa Cutler, we appreciate the information. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Guys, and summer is upon us, and that means fireworks. The Consumer Product Safety Commission is hosting its annual event on fireworks safety today at the National Mall in Washington. So that's where we find our Stephanie Ramos. Stephanie, can you just give us an idea of what you've seen so far and who's actually there?
Absolutely, Kimberly. So we witnessed a demonstration here, just kind of proving, the commission is proving just how dangerous fireworks can be at a perfect time, really. A lot of folks gearing up for the 4th of July holiday. And we really want to remind everyone it can be dangerous if you're dealing with fireworks. Now, the Consumer Product Safety Commission says a majority of fireworks-related injuries happen during the 30 days surrounding the 4th of July. We spoke with the commission's chairman earlier today, and she says last year 5 people lost their lives, ages ranging between 19 and 49 years old, and some of those deaths were caused by both consumer-grade fireworks and also professional fireworks. But here on the National Mall, they detonated 2 of the most common fireworks, the M1000 and the M80. The M1000 was actually lodged into a watermelon. Here's a piece from it, just blew it just everywhere. And then the M80 was being held by a mannequin's hand, and same thing happened there. So these fireworks are nothing to mess with. They are very, very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, seeing those explosions in slow motion, you definitely see the damage that it would do. And there was also an ER doctor who described the injuries that he sees from these explosions that is there.
Absolutely. He mentioned that a lot of the injuries that they see coming into the ER, coming into the hospital, are burn injuries and worse injuries as well. So they really want to let everyone know this is nothing to mess with. With the M1000 firework, for instance, that is a professional grade firework. It has a quick match fuse. So basically, it allows fireworks professionals to choreograph a large show. The burn rate on that is on a safety fuse, which is what you'll find in a consumer grade firework, that's about 6 seconds. On an M1000, it's instantaneous. So right over my shoulder, you can see one of the mannequins here. Here's an example of what can happen if you're using one of those professional grade fireworks.
Wow. So everyone definitely has to be safe. Stephanie Ramos, thank you so much for the updates. We appreciate it. And guys, we move on to some good news. Serena Williams is making history again. She's the superstar athlete, of course, and finally she has her own Wheaties box. So she's the second Black woman tennis player to be on the box. The first was Althea Gibson in 2001, something she made note of when she posted it to Instagram. She said, "I am honored." So we say congratulations to Miss Williams. Long overdue. And as you know, guys, we've been covering Pride all month, and this is Pride Week, a week of celebrations, parades, reflection, and education. And we're highlighting people who are making a real difference in the LGBTQ community, like Misha Mosley, who joins me now, a World Pride community hero. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so you are the founder of the Black Teacher Project. And yes. I've been looking at your videos. You're also a very super funny comedian, known for your one-woman comedy show, Where My Girl's At, about Black lesbians.
Yes.
Yes. So first and foremost, you're an educator. How does this inform the work that you do in this community?
Well, I grew up really appreciating the teachers in my life and teachers who supported me when I came out in high school. Yes. And so I understand the importance of having adults who care about you and who will move you in a direction that will allow you to be your full self.
Yes.
So when I think about my work in the community, it's very much about having people become all of who they are. So many young people spend so much time in schools.
Yes.
So to be able to have teachers that reflect the student population is extremely important. And for those teachers and students to live their full selves and be their full selves in the world.
I like that. Live your best life, right?
You know.
So I want to talk about your comedy because it's amazing. Why is, humor and comedy such a good platform for understanding these issues?
It's, a lot of times, I came out in the 90s, April 21st, 1991, to be exact. And we called it the gay 90s. It was this decade of really unpacking all of who we are, and so much of the resistance we faced even then was based on ignorance, right? And so when I think about people coming to comedy shows, folks want to laugh.
Yes.
When people laugh, they're able to open up in ways that they're normally not. And through that laughter, I brand myself as a social justice comedian.
Yeah.
So while you're laughing, you're going to get a little education in there.
Yes.
So it's an opportunity both to teach people and to help people see the connections that we all have. Because laughing and humor is healing.
Yeah.
And so we need some healing right now.
And you cover a lot of different topics. You talk about poverty, gentrification, gay divorce.
Come on.
Hilarious.
Thank you.
Absolutely hilarious. So one of the things you mentioned to our producer is that you don't have to be a big name to make a big impact.
I believe so. I think, part of our work is to do what is right for us from the place where we are.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the Black Teacher Project, we encourage teachers to lead from the classroom. From that place of being in front of the classroom, you can do so much. So for me, from comedy, people say, well, what's your circuit? I say, I do a lot of benefits.
Yes.
I do a lot of community work because I want folks to be able to enjoy themselves and not feel attacked, to be able to laugh and not feel put down. And so while I trust and hope that will, provide opportunities for a bigger name, the work is most important for me.
Yes, absolutely. So we appreciate you being here. I appreciate your fro.
I'm saying, I was like, wait a minute, let's get it today.
Let's get it. And guys, you should actually check out her videos because you will love it. And we're going to have plenty more great coverage of Pride. I'll be anchoring coverage of the Pride Parade Sunday, June 30th, right here on ABC News Live. Coverage starts at 11 a.m. Eastern. And guys, of course, continue to take care of yourselves. And if you're around, stick around for the briefing room at 3:30 p.m. Then check out World News Prime at 8 p.m. And if you want to stay updated on all of these headlines, you can go to abcnews.com or download the app. I'm Kimberly Brooks, and I'll see you tomorrow.